So there is in fact, three genes that have been chosen. The first one that encode the phytoen synthase come this particular flower, this flower, because they are very intensive yellow color at the petal level. It is Daffodils. And they have isolate the genes encoding the phytoen synthase. And they have also isolate from this plant the genes that encode the lycopene cyclase. Okay, that it is the last step before carotenoid production. And what happens for the two other steps that are at the middle? In fact, they have found that in a specific bacteria that its name is Erwinia bacteria. It's a big family, the Erwinia bacteria, in which you can find, I don't know how many type of genes. They have been well studied, and we have a profile of their genetic variety. But in this case, there is one that is yellow too, okay? So that means that this bacteria is able to produce enzymes to produce this beta-carotene. And in fact, there is one enzyme encoded by the gene that CRLT1, okay, CRTI, sorry, that is able to produce an enzyme able to do the two step, okay, of phytoen modification leading to lycopene. So only three genes that have been necessary to include in this plant to permit production of this carotene, okay, in the seed. Alors why in the seed? Because they have put promoter, okay, behind these genes that are organodependent, means that they are more expressed and specifically expressed in the seed, in specific tissue, okay, of the seed, the coat of a tissue coat, okay, in the seed. So what they have do, they have make first plasmid, recombinant plasmid, including the two genes from the false, and one another plasmid, including the gene originate from the bacteria. They have to do two recombinant agrobacteria that include the genes in the tDNA parts, as I have shown you. And after they have put in contact several parts of the plants. Here it was rice, okay, with these two bacteria in order to induce specific cell transformation. And what they are looking for at this moment, it was a co-transformation with the two plasmid on the same cell. Okay. So after that, they have developed a lot of screen process because both of the two plasmid have selected genes that were different. So they applied a double screen, okay, a double screen system in order to isolate plant cells that have incorporate both of two tDNA from this bacteria and this agrobacteria. And from this cell, they produce some callus, and from this callus, they regenerate plants, and they obtain several, plants of rice that, for some of them, not all, but some of them were able to produce beta-carotene, and it was easily to see because, in fact, the color of the rice is naturally more gold, okay, than the normal one with this rice. This is why it has been also named golden rice. So the first experiment was quite a proof of concept. And it was interesting because, in fact, they succeed to produce carotenoids in seeds. But you see here, the amount of production is very, very, very low. It was not sufficient. So after they have tried several combination with this type of methodology and with classic inbreeding, okay, in order to increase or auto inbreeding. This is what they have done here to produce some second generation of golden rice that have considerably increased the amount of production, but it is not still sufficient. So they have changed the origin of the the gene encoding these enzymes because I have found some enzymes that are better with a better activity. They have also modified different things according the feeding of this pathway, okay, to produce more precursor, GGPP, for example. So they have act at a different level in order to have now a golden rice that is able to produce perhaps 3 or 4 times these contents, okay? And also they have introduced the ability for them to have iron, to have different other cofactors that it is also needed for human health. So if you have time, take time to follow this history, because it was one of the best example of how to manage a metabolic pathway, a new metabolic pathway in a plant, in order to with a real objective, okay, to add some specific metabolite in these plants. Okay. So this was the natural way, okay, that use bacteria. But there is also, give me the time.
It's 10:45.
We have, okay. So what plants are also sensitive to other type of organisms that are responsible of some disease. Virus. Do you know how function a virus? Yes, now obviously everybody know how it function, but the main principle of activity of a virus, because virus is not considered as an alive system, okay? Because
Cannot replicate, cannot produce its own protein.
yes, it can't produce by itself some protein, so it can duplicate its own genome by itself. It needs to infect
Host.
a cell host, okay, to use the natural metabolism of the cells to produce and to reproduce several other particles of a virus. So it is also some interesting vectors that can be used to modify, okay, the genome of our cells, plant cell, or mainly in a transient, mainly in a transient strategy. So few words of what are the virus well known of plants. So here it's a general view of how plants can be infected by this type of organisms, so it's a virus. In fact, this virus are classified, plant virus, okay, are classified in about 40 families. The way by which they can access to the plants is mediated mainly by insects. What it is interesting is that, in fact, lots of this virus can be adapted to the digestive system of the insect without being modified, destroyed, and so on. And they have been also adapted to the way how some insects feed themselves, okay, with a plant, in particular with aphids, okay, that are able to pick, in fact, the plants. And at this moment, some of the virus that are stayed in the stomach of the insect can migrate to the mouth and also to the stick, and can be also by this way they can be propagated also in different plants, including a very safe plants. So it's a very well known systems how to diffuse, okay, the virus on plants, on plant systems. They can have a specific symptoms that you know very well, or people that are working in agriculture know very well, because it's quite easy to observe. There is some what we call mosaic, means that some of part of the leaf or of the stems are decolorated. Okay, means that the virus is particularly active in this place. You can have some deformation also of, for example, vegetables when they are producing, but not only. You may have some necrosis, which is a common also symptoms. And you see that, in fact, it's quite easy to see when your plant is infected, but it's generally too late. to apply several things to try to disrupt this injury. In fact, it is always too late. The only solution we have is to cut, to eliminate. Okay. So in fact, when we have an idea of what virus can be very strong against a specific plants, we make some previous treatments in order to limit accessibility for the insects that are the vector of virus propagation, but also we can have some product that act at the level of the plants to decrease, the possibility of this virus to penetrate. Because when the virus have penetrate by, the canal here of the insect, it's easy for him to diffuse all over the plants because he is directly injected in the phloem. Okay, so the phloem is circulating everywhere over the plant. Okay, and secondly, when these virus are in the vessel cells, they can also go out via what we call plasmodesmata. Okay, and plasmodesmata permit to this virus to go everywhere in the plant. So this is why viruses are very efficient. Okay, not only to diffuse inside the plant, but when they are in the cells, to manage different things for their own production. So this dissemination, wide dissemination, was quite interesting to see because it means that it's quite easy for a virus when the virus is in contact with the plant cells to infect this plant cell. The structure of the virus are quite various. Here you have some examples. They can be isometric, rod shape, filamentous, geminate, and also bacilliform. That it is not so important. What it is interesting is that in fact the genomic content of virus are quite variable. You may have some DNA molecule or RNA molecule, but also you can have some double strand or single strand, RNA or DNA. And this is very interesting because in fact, you can manage different way, in the cell to reproduce when the infection is, to reproduce this normal genomic molecules, or this particular single strand, DNA or RNA, in the cell. So this is interesting because both of these type of virus have been found to have interest for biotechnological application to manage plant cell transformation. Also, this DNA can be linear or can be circular, depend of the type of virus. And they have some specific reading frames, means that it is the number of protein that can be encoded from their genome. It can be only one, and at maximum 10 or 11. So they are not able to produce several type of different proteins. And the main proteins they are able to produce are capsid, proteins, which make the external envelope of the virus. See the minimum, you have 3 types of genes, one for capsid protein, but also there is 2 other genes that encode enzymes that permit replication of the DNA and also movement, of the virus from outside to the cell. So there is at least 3 types of virus that are well known and were used for biotechnological management. The first one well known is which one called colimovirus, that was found in cauliflower. This virus is quite a small one, only 8 kilobase and with 7 reading frames. What it is interesting is that we know now exactly how it functions in the plant cell. When they arrive in the cells, they are able to link it via the capsid to the nuclear pore of the nuclear membrane, okay? And at this moment, it injects inside the nucleus, okay, the DNA. And in particular, this DNA could be directly, because it's a double strand of DNA, a small piece, okay? It can be directly transcribed in mRNA, and also small T transfer RNA, and that could permit the production, okay, of the proteins encoded by this DNA support. And what it is also interesting is that this genome is not this virus genome is not integrated in the plant cell genomes. So it will be a way to manage transient transformation of plant cells, because by this way we are sure that it is not integrated. If we want to integrate this particular genomes, we have to combine what we know now of TI from Agrobacterium, for example, and also the sequence of virus genomes. So I will show you that. But just for you, okay, this is this virus has been really already described, and here are all the 7 reading frames encoding different type of protein with different function, okay? Movement from plasmodesmata to different cell, AFI transmission, for example, coat protein of the capsid, translational transactivator, and so on. So you can see that on my slide, just for you. This is a second class of virus that are also very interesting, that can be found in several types of plants, and viruses are quite specific to a specific plants, okay? So you can find them, for example, in papaya, in potatoes, and also here in sweet potato, for example. All of these viruses are part of the same families named virus. They have some DNA, not DNA, but single strand RNA material as a genome material. They may have different forms, but mainly they are not really well enveloped in a strong capsid. They make some particles here, you see. And what it is interesting, they have only one genome sequence, okay, with all the genes necessary for their movement, replication, and protection. So you have here always the same type of the structure of the virus sequence. The only thing that is changing is the size, depending of the type of the virus, from here papaya or potato, and also the strongness of the different proteins that are produced by this type of virus. They are quite useful for biotechnological system. And the last one that is also well used, in particular for silencing development, what I called VIGs, okay? They use this type of virus. It is the case of furovirus. This furovirus virus, have also a material DNA, genomic material as a single strand RNA, okay? And what it is interesting, in fact, you have two molecules that have two specific reading frames. One, it is called RNA1, and the second one is RNA2, okay? Both of them are a specific role for the virus infection process, but they can be also interesting for us, for use in particular in biotechnology. So please just take here the idea of we have different type of virus. We know now how to use this type of organisms as a tools, only a tools, to mediate specific plant cell transformation. If some of you will be one day interested by what happens, for example, in mammalian cells, lots of transgenic mammalian cells are also mediated by use of specific virus systems, because they are very efficient to modify several things, okay, in gene contents in the cell. Okay, I don't want to make more detail of that. So why we can use this system as a DNA vector for plant cell transformation. Here are the 4 main advantages of using them. The first one is there is a very strong capacity of replication, so you can enhance lots of production of proteins that are encoded by the read frame. In particular in the host cell, so they can completely take advantage of this eukaryotic cell to produce a large quantity of proteins. So multiplication and expression of the transgene. Here the transgene are viral one, but as we have seen that we can substitute gene, for example, in the bacteria, we can do exactly the same in the virus. So we can, instead of putting some sequence that encodes for protein of capsid, you can put some gene that encode to an enzyme that is of interest or protein that is of interest. So by this way, you can have a very high expression of this enzyme in particular in your plant cells. So it's a way also to in vivo, okay, to in vivo characterize one enzyme activity, for example, if you can produce them in a high demand by this way. So I said there is no integration in the cell genome host cell genome. Good order, okay. And so it's completely what it is done for transient transformation. They are very able to disseminate in the plant. So you can have just to make one point of entrance of some virus, and after it will be diffused all over the plant. So it could be also easier. It's not like bacteria. Agrobacteria, they don't diffuse everywhere in the plant, okay? But virus, yes. And so it means that you can generalize this transgene expression, whatever the organs of your plants, for example. Okay. And okay, so it is quite fast. This is just for you to have an idea. They can pass through the phloem 1 centimeter by hour. It's not so, it is quite fast. Okay. For at the scale of a virus. I don't know if we can translate, okay, from us, if we run, how many kilometers we can do in 1 hour. I don't know if someone there make some sport. So what we can do on this type of virus, so there is 2 major virus types that are used in biotechnology, or virus with a single strand RNA, as I showed you before, or virus with a double strand DNA. Here are the name of the most used virus. In particular, TVR is one of the most one, and TMV. And here are the 4 types of virus genome modification that can lead to specific transformation, plant transformation. So, or this is a natural one, the wild type, for example, of the virus, or you can replace some of the genes on the sequence genome of the virus, or you can insert a new one. The only restriction is that you need to be careful of the final size of your genome sequence, because depending on the capsid, you can't form a bigger capsid. They are genetically genetically programmed to be in a specific volume. So if you increase the size of your DNA or RNA, it will be not possible to make new particles of virus. So you need to be careful of that. But it is possible. You can make some, what we say, epitope presentation in case of you want to make some specific immunoreaction, for example, it is not in plant cell, but can. And also you make some complementation. I will be only in these two type in my presentation. So we are not insect, okay? So it's a great news, you see. So we haven't to pick, okay, the plants in order to introduce virus in the plant. So we have made some very more more human protocol, okay, to do that. So the protocol is here. You have your full particle of virus. It's quite easy to manipulate because we are not sensitive to this virus, so there is no danger for us. This is important to say, okay? Which is not the case with animal or human viruses, okay? So, but with plant virus, you can manipulate them without any specific caution because there is no danger for our health. So you can make, to enhance production of this particle, you need to transfer some of the first particle in a host, so here in the plants. So you have to gently make some abrasion of the surface of the leaf. So by this way, you take some, as you said, a silicon carbide. You make some disease, okay, physical disease to the external layer of plant cell, mainly cuticle. Okay, you avoid it, and also the epidermis. And after that, you can put some particle inside, and by this way, they could be diffused in the leaf by plasmodesmata, and after in all the plant by also the same system, phloem or plasmodesmata. So this is the way to infect directly a plant, and you need to be a little bit patient to see the efficiency of the infection, because you need to see appearance of the first symptoms of the infection, yes, to be sure that it is okay. So here, for example, it is one of the workflow we have developed in our lab. We were interested, for example, to transform some apple tree, because apple tree are able to produce a large amount of different metabolites, including lots of polyphenolic compounds, in particular in leaf. And these polyphenols are very interesting because they can attract specific insects, specific caterpillar that enter in the leaf, not only under the leaf, but enter in the leaf and make a sort of island, okay, what it is called photosynthetic island, because they maintain in the leaf possibility of plant cells, okay, to produce a large amount of chlorophyll in order to make lots of photosynthesis to produce a large amount of starch. And so the small caterpillar that are in the leaf, in the parenchyme, is directly feeding, okay, par the plant cell with this type of starch. So we were very interested by the fact how the phenolic compounds could be involved in the attraction, firstly, of this caterpillar, and also how it could be maintain this particular well and efficient production of starch around the caterpillar in this what it is called green island, okay, in the leaf, because all the rest of the leaves died. Only this part is maintained green. I think it is possible to find some type of this symptom also here in different plants. Quite difficult to infect directly the apple tree with a virus particle. So because we need a lots of amount of particle, because this plant is not so sensitive to virus. Perhaps the plant have its own defense mechanisms that can limit the proliferation of the virus. This is why we in fact we do in 2 steps. We started to infect non-interesting plants such as quinoa, because quinoa is very sensitive to this virus. So in this plant, we may have a very high multiplication amount of the particles. We can collect after all the particles and we extract the viral RNA. And what we do is not to infect again this apple plant with a particle of virus, because it doesn't function, but we combine this viral DNA with plasmid of Agrobacterium, and we use another way of distribution. I will explain what it is. It's a direct okay, mechanisms, not an indirect method, but a direct method, named biolistic. So means that in this case, the virus particles are just at the beginning of this type of protocol in order to multiplicate the good RNA. Okay, it's a way to multiplicate it. We will see that. So what are the limitations and the advantage of this type of vectors? As you have seen, it's rapid, significant multiplication. Transcription and translation of the viral genome is very fast in the cell. There is also a systemic infection that can permit to diffuse all this particle over normally all the plant cells. We can use this type of process or to express a specific protein, which is very rapid process in some hours. Or we can also do what we call a VIGS process quickly in 15 to 20 days. Now it's lesser than this time, in order to qualify, for example, some new enzyme, new gene encoding new enzyme. Limitation is that the transient transformation for most virus, there is no plant generation after. So if you want after to stabilize this type of modification in plants, you need to come back to the agrobacterium process in order to generate some plant transformation. Virus are quite close to several species of plants. So sometimes you can't use whatever virus on whatever plants. Okay, you need to find a couple. It is exactly the same with agrobacterium. There is lots of lines, okay, of agrobacterium, and for most of them, they are closely linked with specific family of plants. So you can't use the same agrobacterium to transform all type of plants. So you have to choose which agrobacterium is closely linked with a specific plants to have a real success of your agro transformation. It is exactly the same with viruses. Okay, so not all the plants can be managed with a virus vector until now. We have time to find new virus and also to increase the ability of the number of virus that can be used. There is no possibility to manage this type of experimentation on meristem cells, because in the plants, when you make some infection and you sometimes it will be interesting to target these specific cells, because you know now that if we can keep after these meristem cells and put them in culture, in vitro culture, we can regenerate plants, okay, with lots of new properties. But what it is true in plants that is also quite extraordinary is that even if the plant is infected everywhere, the only part of the plants that are completely safe every time are meristem, because meristem are separate from the rest of the plant by a thin layer of cells, okay, that is a real that block every propagation of every type of pathogenesis, including virus. So virus can never attack or have an effect on meristem cell. That was very interesting because we have recovered lots of genotype without any disease, okay, that are now collection in vitro culture by using this specific type, for example, of tissue. So it's nice. It's here a limitation, but it can be an advantage for other application in biotechnology. And also recombination gene are quite unstable, but as it is a transient effect, it's not, it could be easy to manage for our purpose. So I don't know, just here to illustrate that we can combine the principle of using virus genes to, in fact, property of tDNA of agrobacterium. So means that, for example, we can do what we call the deconstructed virus. okay, means that in fact, in this case, we used all the sequence of the virus, okay, that it is normally used for this type of transformation, but we insert this sequence between a left and a right border recognized, okay, by the agrobacteria. So we can produce specific plasmid, such as TI plasmid, including a sequence here of a virus particle. This could be easier, for example, with apple tree, because we can use, for example, if it is not biolistic, but agrobacterium to introduce the virus vector in the plants. And after this virus vector could be integrated or not, depending on the modification of the plasmid, and could be at least expressed and give the corresponding protein. So just to show you that in fact, there is not only one way to work with bacteria, with properly genetic material of bacteria. There is not only one way to work with a virus, with only the properly genetic of virus, but we can try to combine both of the system, as we know very well them, how we can manage them independently in order to make more efficient every transformation, transient or stable transformation. So there is now lots of tools. It's quite we called molecular tools, okay, to operate this type of transformation in plants. So here it's the illustration of what we can do. We can modify some, so I saw to you some tDNA plasmid, okay, with virus sequence. After this is included in agrobacterium. We can manage the infiltration of agrobacterium directly in a plant. It's quite easy because plants have stomata. So you can apply a syringe without not aiguille, okay, and you can just push, and by the pressure you can permit to the bacteria to enter via stomata in the leaf. And when they are in the leaves, they are directly in contact with cells, plant cells, and they can operate, okay, the natural transformation of the cell. And sometimes what they give to the cell is a virus particle. So after the virus particle will be directly inside the plant, and it can diffuse all over the plant by plasmodesmata system, and they can induce in new leaf, for example, a phenotype of transformed cells, for example. So you can have, which is very interesting, on the same plant, some organs that are not transformed and some organs that are transformed. And in particular, if you want to test influence of some genetic modification on metabolic pathway, you can compare directly on the same plants organs that are not able to produce this metabolite because they have not been transformed with organs that are transformed. So by this way, you can make directly differential gene expression study or differential metabolic production. It is exactly the method I explained you yesterday on the same genetic material, means the same plant. This is very interesting for several applications. Here it's, for example, an expression of not a very interesting gene. It's a selected or marker genes that encode for a green fluorescent protein. Okay, this is a useful selective marker because we have to put under UV our plants, and if this gene is expressed, they can fluoresce in green. And here you can see that this it's Bentanyama, I think. The red light under UV correspond to which pigment? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, yes, you can see that all of these cells are chlorophyllian cells. They are green at natural light. They became red under UV. And you see that also in this new generation of leaf, you can observe high green fluorescence, okay, that correspond to the expression, okay, of this protein during the infectious process in this particular new organ. So it is what I say to you. You can compare transformed leaf to an untransformed leaf in order to see if there is some differential expression of gene or protein and so on. Sometimes it is quite difficult to agro-infiltrated with lots of number of plants. So we use a sort of vacuum systems. It's quite easy. You put your plant under, you see in the box. You avoid all the air. And if they are in contact with agrobacterium, what happens? The agrobacterium infiltrated, all the stomata of the plant. So by this way, you can infiltrate agrobacterium with the virus, sequence in the plasmid, by just in few minutes, and with lots of efficiency, whatever the organ of the plant. And this is the system that can preserve the plants, because you are not obliged to cut a piece or to inject with a strong force, your plasmid. And this system have been developed at an industrial scale. This is what I want to show you here. For example, you can have some specific plants. Mainly it's a tobacco on Nicotiana bentaniana, because they have lots of biomass, aerial biomass. So you can make some culture. All of the plants fixed on a support can be put in a solution of agrobacterium in order to put them in contact. Agrobacterium transformed agrobacterium with a specific tDNA, including a virus particle, always. And after you close this box and you put out all the air, means that all the solution penetrate by each stomata of each plant. So in it's not a so long time, some minutes or half an hour, you can introduce agrobacteria in each organs of the plant, and mainly in leaf. So after that, you pull off the agrobacterium solution. You wait for some hours, not necessary to wait for a long time, some hours. Time for the bacteria to let the tDNA, to let the virus particles. They are not integrated in the genome. They are stay outside the genome. But as it is a virus sequence, all the protein that of interest that have been included in this vector are overexpressed in a very, very, very efficient amount. So mean that in a 3 or 4 or perhaps 10 hours max, you may have lots of recombinant protein produced in your leaf, and after you have just to harvest this biomass and to make the extraction process until the purification to have the recombinant protein you want to have, for example. So this, until now, this system have really been shown performant, efficient for vaccine protein production. It is also a way, to modify all the metabolism of the plants dedicated to this production. And there is a lots of example, of this type of vaccine production, because you can see here more than 25 to 40% of the soluble protein could be your recombinant protein. So it's the best way to produce some of recombinant protein. It's a way also to produce some enzymes that are involved in metabolic pathway if we want to, for example, study some of their characteristics. Here it's a photograph, but there is lots of system. Sometimes it is some of tunnels. There is different type of organization. Here you have the bath with the agrobacterium solution. Here you have all the plant. And you have seen it can be completely automatic. Nobody is needed to do every step. It's like indoor farming. You have just to take a look. Machine are doing things for yourself. And at the end of this process, because there is all you see is mechanically transfer from this bathroom to another one, and so on and so on. And at the end, you have just to harvest the fresh biomass in order to purify what you want to purify. So here it's for protein, but you can imagine, and there is some essay that are being trying to do now, to develop now, is to implement here several or transcriptional factor or really metabolic genes that are involved in metabolic pathway, not only to produce the protein, but to produce enzymatic activity that could lead to production of a high amount of metabolite in these plant cells. And by this way, after you can harvest the biomass, and you can also find more large amount of specific metabolite in these plants. It is faster than to produce some transgenic plants that could be able to produce high amount of metabolite. So it's a quite very nice system, and there is a lots of new application, including production of specialized metabolite. Just for you, here it is the list of what are the main protein recombinant production by this type of method. The newly one is obviously spike 2 from COVID capsid of the virus, to introduce several system of vaccine, traditional vaccine with protein. It's not mRNA protein vaccine. So I think I have not specifically target some of industry. I don't know if there is some also in India. I haven't time to take a look to see if this type of methodology is used also here. I suppose yes, because it's quite easy to manage. It costs a little bit at the beginning to make the infrastructure, but it is always the case at industrial scale. And but after, it could be really efficient. And what also it is interesting, you can use the same pathway, okay, of your industrial process to put several different type of plants. There is no contamination, so you can make, depending of the cycle of your production, different type of protein during the time, during the period you develop these things. Okay, so what time is it?
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. Just time to explain what is biolistic, because I show you it is also one of the main techniques used in the lab, but also at a bigger scale. The 3 others are quite classical and not so useful. So biolistic, as the name is saying, come from the idea of to bombard, okay, with a gun. It was at the beginning, the first one was a gun modified, okay, to bombard plant with particles, and these particles need to be very strong, so they are in gold or in tungsten, and these particles are covered by DNA, plasmids, for example, or crude DNA. So you have to bombard cells and to wait. If a particle stay in the nucleus, for example, it will be a way to directly, okay, give some new DNA in the nucleus without any process, natural process, such as the process managed, for example, by Agrobacterium. It's a very powerful method because you can bombard a very high amount of cells. Lots of them died, obviously, but it is only necessary that some of them will be staying alive, and also will have internalized some beads with the DNA to have success. So there is not so many cases in which there is no success for that. They are very less time consuming. Half an hour will be the half, and after time is done. Okay, and also it can be clearly applied currently, okay, in all laboratories. And only some cells is necessary to be transformed, because from these cells, after, you can regenerate callus and regenerate plants and so on and so on. You see always the same workflow after. So how is the machine used at the laboratory is like that, not a big one, okay? And the principle is that you have your two type of bead, gold and tungsten. You can fix on them, I say to you, different DNA material that can be nude or plasmid. And after the principle, I have perhaps put, yes, this slide to explain how it functions. So the system is organized like that. You have here a compartment in which you put your cells, okay? Upper this compartment, including, you have another one here that it is separated from this one, not by a plain system, but it's a grid, okay, with a small hole. And in the upper part of this second compartment, you have here a small plate in which you have your beads, okay, with DNA. And at the end here, you have a piston. Okay, so what happens when you go down the piston, okay, you increase the pressure in this part. And here, there is a membrane that is less strong as it was the rest of the piston. So at one moment, when the pressure becomes very high, this membrane disrupts and it makes a sort of wave, okay, of pressure that lead to disrupt this capsule containing the beads, and the beads are projected, okay, on the cell ici. The fact that they need to pass across this grid means that they can be distributed quite homogeneously on all the samples and not in the center, for example, of your sample. And it took 5 minutes at least, okay, time to put to go in pressure. And after you have your cells, you put them in an incubator in order to let them to recover the ability to divide. And after you collect, okay, the cells that are still alive, and you can start to see if they are expressed or not, okay, the genes and also the proteins that have been linked to the beads at the beginning. So it's a very efficient system. And there is also some other type of instrument more useful to manage everywhere. It's like a small gun. Yeah, okay. Here it's the small system, identical as the big one I show you just now. And what it is interesting is that you are not obliged to cut some piece of plants or to make some specific cells inside the machine to be bombarded, but you can directly do that on a plant, a natural plant. And as it was done with the VIX, for example, you can manage to transform or to put this type of DNA directly in several leaves, but not in all leaves. So you may have, in this case too, comparison with organs that are wild-type organs and organs that have been treated by this type of particle bombardment system. And whatever happens, you don't need to go up normally to go up to a new regenerated transgenic plant. You may have some information at this level, but if you want, depend of the plasmid you have coated on the beads, okay, if it's a classical, for example, Agrobacterium plasmid, you can regenerate also stable transformed plants. So by this type of methodology, you can both produce some transient transformation or stable transformation. This could take more time than some hours, obviously, okay, but it is not the same aim, okay, to produce these two type of plants. So it is really quite useful to understand several things. In particular, if you can bombard some plant cells, you can observe the production of an enzyme. Okay, alors how? Because it's quite difficult to see an enzyme in a cell. It's quite easy. If you fused the sequence of your enzyme, for example, with, for example, a GFP. It is what we call a fused marked protein. Means that when you put beads in plant cell, if the DNA is expressed, mean that you will be able to produce your enzymes with this fused chromophore or fluorophore, okay? And after you have just to put under UV microscope with specific wavelengths, okay, your cells, and you can observe if the cells are able to become fluorescent or not. If they are fluorescent, means they have also expressed the enzymes. And what it is interesting at this point is not to after see if they are able to produce a specific metabolite. It is to know where this enzymes is produced and where this enzymes after act, in which compartment. Because you have seen that the metabolic pathway occur in one cell in different compartments: plastid, vacuole, nucleus, reticulum endoplasmic, and so on. So it is also interesting when we discover a new genes, a new enzyme, after having characterized their activity, new activity, their ability to produce this type of metabolic intermediates. It's quite interesting to know also where this enzyme is produced in the plant cell in order to have a real view of the architecture of the pathway. Means that by this way, we will be able to see if it is a P450, in which membrane this enzyme will be anchored: reticulum, tonoplast, plasmic membrane. This could be also very informative, in order to have an idea of how the flux of the metabolites occur through a metabolic pathway in one cells in particular. So all of these techniques have been used for this type also of discovery. For example, all the metabolic pathway of Catharanthus roseus leading to vincristine and vinblastine have been studied by this way. So all the enzymes have been expressed in cells, in Catharanthus cells, because we have some cell culture of Catharanthus in the lab. And for each enzyme, we know exactly where they operate in the cells. So by this way, we have rebuilt completely the pathway. And this is why I show you yesterday, for example, in the root, a part of this pathway occur at the reticulum endoplasmic, but in the leaf, it is more complex. We have involved several compartments that have been never involved before. Some peroxisome, the nucleus also, because there is some step that occur in the nucleus, which is not a common organelles used for metabolic pathway, for example. So it is a very powerful way to have an idea of how this metabolic pathway are organized in one cell, for example. It's not so easy. That's just a soup in which you have all your enzyme, you give a precursor, and you want a product. It is more complex to regulate all of this pathway. So there is 3 other methods. I can go very quickly because they are not so useful now. It is to integrate directly some DNA in plant cell. There is a chemical process using polyethylene glycol, PEG, you know that, okay? So if you put, you need to prepare cells to avoid the cell wall. So you have to produce before protoplast, okay? That can be put in together with some particle of PEG, in which you can have added some DNA, and after this PEG and divalent cation destabilize the plasma membrane. And if you have lots of DNA outside, it can be a possibility to permit DNA to enter, but you don't control what happens with your DNA one time it is going inside the cell. so it's less precise and less fine as the use, for example, of agrobacterium. So there is some advantage. It's quite easy to do and fast to do. The disadvantage is that you have no control of nothing, to be quick. And you have no control for how many copies of DNA you enter in this system. So it could be quite difficult to manage. The second one is electroporation. It's something between the use of protoplast with PEG or protoplast with current that had exactly the same way as PEG. Means that when you put some current on your protoplast, you make some destabilization of the membrane cells, so of your protoplast. And if you have some DNA in the medium of your protoplast, at this moment you can have some DNA that enter in the protoplast. After that, you have to wait that the cells is able to regenerate the cell wall, and after to cultivate these new cells in vitro culture system in order to see what happens. What it is interesting is that to have a very quick screening system in order to select only the cells that could be interesting to have, and with these cells try to making callus and regenerate plants and so on and so on. So it could be long, but if nothing else function, it could be another solution, okay? And the last one, that it is more used with mammalian cells than with plant cells, is the use of liposome. Liposome are some particles made by artificial double layer membrane with only phospholipids, and you can trap some DNA in sort of this type of vesicule. And after, when you put in contact the protoplast and this vesicule, even if you make some current or some chemical compounds that permit to link both of the liposome with membrane, you can permit to this DNA to enter in the cell, but it is always the same. You don't know how this DNA is managed after in the cell, because if it needs to go to the nucleus, means that it needs to be preserved from DNAs, RNAs that are in the cytoplasm, for example, so it can be difficult. And also what happens here is that, in fact, you never know when this DNA, even if it succeeds to access to the nucleus, how it can be integrated in the genome sequence. So you see that these are possibilities, but they are not so well used. But they have shown in some case some efficiency. It was a case, for example, in carrot, in tobacco, and so on. The difficulty of this is the nature of the liposome and the size of the liposome compared to the size of the plant cell, for example, etc. I think it is, yes, where I wanted to stop today.